My son forgot my birthday, and my daughter-in-law said, "It's just another day. Don't be dramatic." Then she posted a picture of them in Cancun with the whole family, even the dog. A week later, my son called me and said, "The mortgage payment still hasn't been made." I replied, "It's just one more payment. Don't be dramatic. I'm glad to have you here. Follow my story to the end and comment which city you're watching from, so I can see how far my story has come." I woke up that Tuesday in October with a strange feeling in my chest. It wasn't excitement exactly, but a mix of hope and anxiety I'd learned to associate with my birthdays over the past few years. 64 years old. I'd reached an age where each year felt like a gift and also a reminder of how long it had been since I felt truly celebrated. The clock read 7 a.m. when I got out of bed and walked to the kitchen to make my coffee. The house was quiet as ever. I'd lived alone for the past 8 years, since my husband George died, but I'd never fully grown accustomed to that silence, especially on days like this. As the coffee brewed, I couldn't help glancing at my phone. The screen was blank. Not a message, not a missed call, nothing. "It's still early," I told myself, trying to soothe the pang of disappointment already forming in my stomach. At 8 o'clock, I checked again. Nothing. At 9 o'clock, the same. By 10 a.m., that pang had turned into a dull, constant ache. Tyler, my only son, had always been a bit distracted, but he'd never forgotten my birthday, well, at least not completely. Last year he arrived 3 days late with wilted flowers from the gas station, but he arrived. I decided to keep busy. I cleaned the house from top to bottom, even though it was already spotless. I watered the garden twice. I organized my closet for the 3rd time this month. But every time I walked past the phone, my heart raced a little, waiting to hear the familiar ring. By noon, I couldn't resist any longer and decided to call myself. "Hi, you've reached Tyler Morrison. I can't answer right now. But leave a message and I'll call you back." I hung up without leaving a message. I wasn't going to beg for a birthday greeting. That's when I decided to check Facebook, something I rarely did. I'd created the account primarily to see photos of my grandchildren, Emma, 16, and Jake, 14. But Tyler and his wife, Bianca, posted so little that I often forgot to check. What I saw took my breath away. There it was, a photo posted just 2 hours earlier. Tyler, Bianca, Emma, Jake, and even Duke, their golden retriever, posing on a beach that clearly wasn't in our state. They were all smiling under a bright sun, with palm trees in the background and tropical cocktails in the adults' hands. The caption read, "Family vacation in Cancun." We needed this. I stared at the screen for several minutes, trying to process what I was seeing. They'd planned a family trip. They'd packed bags, bought plane tickets, booked a hotel. They'd included the dog, but they hadn't thought of me, not even enough to let me know they were leaving. But what hurt most was realizing Tyler had been active on social media that morning, and yet he still hadn't remembered my birthday. With shaking hands, I dialed his number again. This time he answered. "Mom, everything's okay. We're at the beach and the reception is terrible." I could hear laughter in the background, the sound of waves, and tropical music. "Tyler," I managed to say, though my voice sounded calmer than I felt, "do you know what day it is?" There was a pause that lasted way too long. Tuesday. "It's my birthday, Tyler." The silence that followed was deafening. I could hear Bianca in the background asking who was calling, and then Tyler whispering something I couldn't catch. "God, Mom, I'm so sorry. It's just, with traveling and everything, I got completely lost. I'll make it up to you when we get back, yeah?" Before I could answer, I heard Bianca's voice come through the phone. "Tyler, tell her we'll talk later. The kids want to go swimming." Mom, I have to go. The kids want to, Tyler, I interrupted. When did you plan this trip? What? Oh. Like 3 weeks ago. Bianca found an amazing deal and 3 weeks. They'd had 3 weeks to remember they'd be away during my birthday, 3 weeks to invite me, or at least give me a heads up. Mom, are you still there? Yeah, I answered, even though it felt like my soul had left my body. Look, when you get back, we'll plan something special for you, okay? Bianca says we can go to that Italian restaurant you like for dinner. Bianca says. It was always what Bianca said. Tyler, could you put me through to Emma and Jake? I'd like to say hi. Oh, they're in the water right now, but I'll tell them to call you back later. Yeah. I knew they wouldn't, not because they didn't love me, but because it wouldn't occur to them on their own, and clearly no one else would remind them. Okay, I said. Enjoy your trip. Thanks, Mom. You're the best. Love you. He hung up before I could say anything else. I sat in my kitchen holding the phone, feeling an emptiness I hadn't experienced even when George died. At least when he died, Tyler had been there. He arranged the funeral, took care of me, was present. But this was different. This was pure neglect, emotional abandonment disguised as distraction. I looked back at the picture on Facebook. Duke, the dog, was wearing a little beach hat. Even the dog had been deemed more important than me. That night, as I ate a frozen pizza alone in front of the TV, my phone rang. It was Bianca. Evangelina, hi. Tyler told me about your birthday. That's a shame, isn't it? Her tone was as artificially sweet as ever. Yes, I answered simply, but you have to understand, these things happen. It's just another day. No need to be so dramatic about it. Those words hit me like a slap. Just another day. Don't be dramatic, sorry. I mean, you already turned 64. At our age, birthdays aren't a big deal. What matters is family, and we love you every day of the year. At our age? I repeated. Bianca was 38, exactly. Besides, Tyler says we're going to do something special when we get back. Isn't that better? A celebration without rushing? I could hear the ocean in the background and distant laughter. They were having the time of their lives while explaining to me why my birthday didn't matter. Bianca, I said slowly, whose idea was it not to tell me about the trip? What do you mean? It's a simple question. There was a pause. No one decided not to tell you, the opportunity just didn't arise. They had 3 weeks. Evangelina, frankly, I thought Tyler had told you. And anyway, it's not like you were coming, right? It was a trip for the nuclear family. Nuclear family. Like I was a distant satellite orbiting their lives. I understand, I said, perfect. I knew you'd understand. You're so reasonable. After we hung up, I sat in the darkness of my living room, reflecting on those words. It's just another day. Don't be dramatic. For the first time in decades, I allowed myself to truly feel the depth of my loneliness. It wasn't just that they'd forgotten my birthday, they had consciously planned to exclude me from their lives. And when I confronted that reality, I was told not to be dramatic. That night, as I tried to sleep, one image kept popping into my mind. Duke, the dog, in his little beach hat, included in every family photo, while I hadn't even been a consideration. Something shifted in me. A small flame of indignation that had been dormant for years finally ignited. And when my phone rang the next morning with Tyler's name on the screen, that flame was ready to grow. The phone rang at 9:30 in the morning, barely 24 hours after my forgotten birthday. I saw Tyler's name and, for the first time in years, I didn't feel the automatic urge to answer immediately. I let it ring 3 times before responding. Hey, Tyler. Mom, thank God you answered. We have a problem. His voice sounded strained, almost desperate, very different from yesterday's relaxed tone from the beach. What kind of problem? It's the mortgage. The bank called me this morning. Apparently this month's payment didn't go through and we're already 3 days late. If I don't pay today, they're going to start the foreclosure process. I fell silent, processing his words. For the past 5 years, I'd been paying Tyler's mortgage directly from my account. It was an arrangement we'd made when he fell into financial hardship after being laid off from his job at the car dealership. Temporary, he'd said, only until he stabilized. That had been 5 years ago. Mom, did you hear me? I heard you, I answered calmly. I need you to make the transfer today. It's $2,400. You know I'm going to pay you back when things get better. That phrase, when things get better. I'd heard it so many times I'd lost count. Tyler, I said slowly, where are you right now? What? I'm at the hotel. Why? In Cancun. Yes, but I don't understand what that has to do with. How much did that trip cost? There was a pause. Mom, that's not relevant now. I need, answer the question. I don't know exactly. Bianca took care of everything. Maybe $6,000 for everyone, including the plane tickets and the hotel. $6,000, about 2.5 months of mortgage payments. And it didn't occur to you to use that money to pay for the house? Mom, we needed this vacation. It's been a very stressful year for Bianca with her new job, and the kids had exams. Bianca has a job? Yes. She got a part-time position at a boutique. It's only 20 hours a week. But 20 hours a week at a boutique, I repeated, while at 64 I'm still paying your mortgage. Mom, Tyler, I said, and something in my tone must have caught his attention, because he immediately fell quiet. Do you remember what day it was yesterday? Mom, we talked about this. I told you I'm sorry. And how long have you been telling me you're going to pay me back? What? I don't know why you're bringing that up now. 5 years, Tyler. 5 years of mortgage payments. 5 years of when things get better. 5 years of it's temporary. Mom, I don't understand why you're acting like this. We've always had this arrangement. Arrangement. I felt something cold expand in my chest. Is that what you call it? Well. Yes. You help us when we need it, and we love you and include you in our lives. Include me? Like yesterday, when you forgot my birthday? That was a mistake, Mom. I explained, or like when you planned a family trip and didn't tell me? Mom, you know you don't like long trips since Dad died. Did I tell you that, or did you just assume? Silence. Tyler, did you ever ask me if I wanted to go? Okay, but did it ever occur to you to include me? Or did you just include the dog instead? Mom, that's ridiculous. Duke's part of the family and I'm. What? The question hung in the air. I could hear background noise, Bianca asking something. The kids laughing, the sound of a pool. Of course you're part of the family, he said finally, but his voice sounded less confident. Then, like part of the family, I said, remembering Bianca's exact words to me, it's just another payment. Don't be dramatic. What did your wife say yesterday about my birthday? It's just another day. Don't be dramatic, Mom, that's completely different. Why? According to Bianca, at our age, these things don't matter that much. But you can lose your house, and I can lose my birthday, and only one of those mattered to you. Mom, please, this is serious. And my birthday wasn't? He sighed deeply. In the background, Bianca's voice became clearer. What's going on? What's taking you so long? The kids want to go to to lunch. It's my mom, I heard Tyler whisper. She's being difficult about the mortgage payment. Difficult, I repeated, my voice colder than I'd ever heard it. Tyler, are you there? Yes, Mom. I want you to understand something very clearly. I'm not going to make that payment. What? Mom, you can't be serious. Completely serious. But I'm going to lose the house. Maybe you should have thought about that before you spent $6,000 on a vacation. Mom, please, I'm begging you. You're begging me? Did you beg yourself to remember my birthday? That's different. No, Tyler, it's not different. For 5 years I've been your financial safety net, paying your mortgage, your emergencies, your whims. In all that time, how many times have you called me just to ask how I'm doing? I call you, you call me when you need money. You call me when you're in trouble. Yesterday, on my birthday, when you could have called just to say, I love you, Mom, you were too busy enjoying your vacation paid for with my money. It's not your money, Mom. It's money you're lending me. Those words hit like a punch. Money I'm lending you? Well, yes. We've always said it's a loan. Tyler, in 5 years, how much have you paid me back? Silence, I'll help you with the math. In 5 years. You haven't paid me back a dime. But I had the intention. Do you know how much money I've lent your family in these 5 years? Not exactly, $144,000. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the background noise seemed to stop. Mortgage. Medical emergencies. Car repairs. Vacations. Christmas presents for the kids. Emma's tuition. It all came out of my retirement account. Mom. I didn't know it was that much. Because you never asked. Because to you, I'm an ATM, that's not true. No? Then explain why the only time you call me is when you need money. Mom, I love you. If you loved me, you would have remembered my birthday. If you respected me, you would have included me in your family plans. If you valued me as more than a source of income, you wouldn't be calling me from a $6,000 vacation to ask me to pay your mortgage. What are you saying? I'm saying it's over. What's over? Everything. No more payments. No more loans. No more being your financial lifeline while you treat me like an old piece of furniture. Mom, you can't do this. I can. It's my money, Tyler. My money that I've been giving you for 5 years without getting anything in return, except neglect and disrespect. I heard Bianca in the background, her voice now higher and more urgent. What's going on? Is she going to pay or not? Tyler? Enjoy the rest of your vacation, I said, my voice final. When you get back, figure out how you're going to pay your mortgage. Mom, wait, I hung up. For the first time in 5 years, I wasn't running to solve his problems. For the first time in my adult life, I put my emotional needs above my son's financial needs. I sat in my kitchen staring at my phone, which had already started ringing again with Tyler's calls. I didn't answer. Instead, I went to my study and pulled out a shoebox I kept in the closet. Inside were all the receipts, all the bank transfers, all the loans I'd taken out over the years. It was time to take a complete inventory. It was time to see exactly how much it had cost me to be a loving mother to a son who had forgotten how to love me back. The shoebox was heavier than I remembered. I'd been meticulously filling it for years, saving every receipt, every transfer slip, every tiny bit of evidence of my generosity that now felt more like systematic stupidity. I sat on the floor of my study and dumped the entire contents onto the carpet. Papers scattered everywhere, bank receipts, transfer slips, medical bills I'd paid, receipts for car repairs, college tuition invoices. It was like watching my financial life for the past few years spill out in front of me. I took the first paper, a transfer for $1,200 from 5 years ago, when Tyler lost his job. The memo said it was for food and basic expenses until he finds work. I remembered that day perfectly. Tyler arrived at my house with tears in his eyes, with 11-year-old Emma and 9-year-old Jake hanging off his arms, telling me he didn't know how he was going to feed his family. The second paper, $2,000 for the deposit on the new house when he finally got a job again. Just until I'm settled, Mom. I promise I'll pay you back. The third, $500 for Emma's school uniform when she started middle school at a private academy Bianca insisted was essential for her future. I kept going, paper after paper, and with each one, a new wave of memories hit me. These weren't just numbers on a page. They were moments when I chose to put my son's needs before my own. $3,000 to repair his roof after a storm. $800 for repairs to Bianca's car. $2,000 for last year's family vacation to Disney World, which Tyler said the kids deserved after a rough year at school. $4,000 for medical expenses when Jake broke his arm and insurance didn't cover everything. $2,000 for Emma's first semester of college tuition, and so it went, paper after paper, year after year. Each expense justified in the moment, each loan promised to be repaid when things get better. When I finished tallying everything, the sum was even more devastating than I'd calculated on the phone, $157,400, not $144,000. I had underestimated my own generosity, but there was something else in that box. At the bottom, I found a manila folder I'd completely forgotten about. I opened it with trembling fingers and found something that made my breath stop: letters. Handwritten letters from Tyler during the first few years after George's death. I'd kept them because, at the time, they'd given me so much joy, so much hope that maybe my son really needed me and valued me. I picked up the first letter, dated 6 years ago. Dear Mom, I don't know how to thank you for everything you've done for us this year. I know Dad would be proud to see how you take care of the whole family. Without your help, I don't know what we would have done. You are the rock of this family, and I promise that one day I will repay you for everything you've invested in us. I love you, Tyler. I read the letter 3 times, feeling each word cut like a razor. The rock of the family, that's what I had been. A silent column holding everyone's weight while they lived their lives carefree. The second letter was from 4 years ago. Mom, Bianca and I were talking last night about how lucky we are to have you. Not many people have such a generous and supportive mother. The kids always talk about how amazing their Grandma Lena is. Emma says you're her favorite person in the world. We know these years have been hard for you too, but I want you to know that everything you've done for us is creating beautiful memories for the children. One day, when I can help you like you've helped us. I hope to be half as generous as you've been, Tyler. Emma says you're her favorite person in the world. Those words hurt me more than anything else, because I knew they weren't true anymore, not after years of Bianca filling her head with ideas about what was normal. I continued reading, letter after letter, each filled with gratitude, promises, and apparent love. But I noticed something else. The letters became less frequent over time, and the gratitude more mechanical, more formulaic. The last letter was from just a year and a half ago. Mom, thank you for helping with Emma's tuition. We know it's a lot of money, but Bianca and I truly believe a good education is the best investment we can make. The children send their regards. The children send their regards. Not love. Not we miss you. Regards, like I was a distant acquaintance. I stood, leaving all the papers scattered, and went to my computer. I needed to see something. I opened my online bank account and began reviewing the past few years of transfers to Tyler. What I discovered left me speechless. Not only had I been paying the $2,400 monthly mortgage, I had also been covering most of their daily expenses without fully realizing it. Automatic transfers of $500 every 2 weeks for groceries. Direct payments to the electric company when they were late. Emergency transfers that had become so routine I made them without thinking. But what really shattered me was realizing that, in the last 2 years, the only times Tyler called me were to ask for money. I reviewed my call history. Every call from Tyler in the last 24 months had been followed by a wire transfer within 48 hours. There hadn't been a single conversation in 2 years that didn't end with him needing money. I went to the kitchen for a glass of water, trying to process the magnitude of what I discovered. It wasn't just that I'd been supporting my adult son financially, it was that he had systematically turned our relationship into a business transaction, where I was the bank and he was the client. And Bianca. Bianca knew everything. Suddenly I remembered something. Last year, when Emma turned 15, Tyler asked me for money for a surprise party Bianca wanted to throw, decorations, food, a DJ. I was excited to contribute to my granddaughter's happiness. But when I arrived, Emma didn't seem surprised at all. And when I asked Bianca about the arrangements, she said, "Oh, Emma's known about the party for weeks." It wasn't really a surprise. So why had Tyler told me it was? Why had he justified the expense as something special when it wasn't? I began to remember other inconsistencies. Jake's medical emergency, which turned out to be a routine checkup. The urgent car repair that was just regular maintenance. The unexpected bills that appeared right before they were supposed to buy something new for the house. It had been systematic. Consistent. Manipulative. My phone rang, interrupting my thoughts. It was Tyler, probably calling from the beach again. This time I answered, "Hi, Tyler." "Mom, thank God." "Listen, I talked to Bianca and the kids, and we all agreed that when we get back, we're going to throw you an amazing birthday celebration. It's going to be beautiful. Bianca's already planning everything. We'll invite the whole family. There'll be music, food, and who's going to pay for that party, Tyler?" There was a pause. "Well, I thought maybe we could split the costs." "Split between whom?" "Between you and me." "Obviously." "Tyler," I said slowly, "do you realize what you just said?" "What do you mean?" "You're asking me to pay for my own birthday party, after you forgot my actual birthday. That's not how I see it." "How do you see it, then?" "I see it as an opportunity for the family to get together and celebrate." "The family? You mean the same family that's currently in Cancun without me?" "Mom, we already talked about that." "Tyler, tell me something. In the last 2 years, how many times have you called me just to talk, not asking for money, not needing anything, just to ask how I'm doing?" Well, I call you all the time." "Answer the question." A long silence. "I don't know exactly." 0 times, Tyler." 0. That can't be true." I checked my call history. Every call from you in the last 2 years was followed by a request for money. "Mom, that's a coincidence." 24 months of coincidences? I could hear Bianca in the background asking what was going on. "Tyler," I continued, "I want you to think very carefully about your answer to this. When was the last time you told me you love me, without asking me for money in the same conversation?" The silence that followed gave me the answer I needed. "Mom, you can't remember, can you?" That doesn't mean anything. It means everything. Our relationship has become a transaction. You get money, I get crumbs of affection. That's not fair. You know what's not fair? $157,400, Tyler. What? That's the exact amount I've loaned your family in the last 5 years. Absolute silence. And do you know how much you've paid me back? Mom, $0. Not a cent, but I had the intention. Intentions don't pay mortgages. Intentions don't buy food. Intentions don't sustain a family for 5 years. What are you trying to say? I'm saying I'm no longer your personal bank. And more importantly, I'm no longer going to be treated like one. I hung up the phone and turned it off completely. I walked back to my study, where all the papers were still scattered on the floor. I looked at them for a moment. Then I began collecting and organizing them in chronological order. It was time to document exactly how I'd gotten to this point, and time to decide what I was going to do about it. Because one thing was clear, the Tyler who wrote those letters filled with love and gratitude no longer existed. Or maybe he never really had, and the Evangelina I'd allowed to be used for 5 years wasn't going to exist anymore, either. I kept my phone off for 3 full days. 3 days of absolute silence that gave me a perspective I hadn't had in years. No emergency calls, no urgent requests for money, no constant anxiety about when the next crisis would arrive for me to solve with my checkbook. It was strange how liberating it felt not to be needed. On day 4, when I finally turned my phone on, I had 37 missed calls and 23 texts, all from Tyler, escalating from pleading to something dangerously close to threats. The messages told a fascinating story. Message 1, Mom, please answer. We need to talk. Message 5, Mom, this is ridiculous. We're family. Message 10, the bank called again. They're going to foreclose next week if I don't pay. Message 15, Mom, the kids are asking why Grandma doesn't want us anymore. Message 20, Bianca says you're having some kind of emotional breakdown. Do you need medical help? Message 23, Mom, this is cruel and childish. Dad would be ashamed of how you're acting. That last message gave me pause. Tyler had invoked the memory of his father, my George, to manipulate me. He'd never crossed that line before. It made me realize just how desperate he was. I decided to call him, not to give in, but because I was curious to see how far my son had fallen. He answered before the first ring, Mom, thank God. Where have you been? I've been worried sick. I was right here, Tyler. I just decided not to be available for your financial emergencies. Mom, this isn't a game. They're going to take my house. Are you back from Cancun yet? Yes, we got back yesterday, but that doesn't matter now. I need you to. Did you have fun? What? Did you have fun, Tyler? He hesitated. Yes. We did, Mom. But we can't talk about that now. How much did you spend altogether? Mom, please. It's a simple question, Tyler. A deep sigh. $8,000. But we found some amazing deals. 8,000, I repeated slowly. More than 3 months of mortgage payments. Mom, we'd already planned and paid for the trip before I knew there were problems with the mortgage. That's a lie, Tyler. You called from Cancun saying the bank contacted you that morning. Banks don't call about payments that are only 3 days late. They call when you've gone weeks without paying. Silence. How long had you been behind on the mortgage before the trip? Mom, how long, Tyler? 2 months, he admitted finally. But I thought when I got back you could. You lied to me, I said. You planned an $8,000 trip knowing you hadn't paid your mortgage in 2 months, then called me from the beach pretending it was a sudden emergency. It's not that simple. Explain the complication. Well, Bianca had been planning the trip for months. It was her birthday present, and the kids were very excited. Bianca's birthday, yes. She turned 39 in August. And you spent thousands on her birthday but couldn't remember mine? That's different. How? Bianca had been depressed. And the kids thought it would be nice. The kids thought, or Bianca told them to think. Mom, why are you making this so hard? Because I'm tired of being foolish, Tyler. The word surprised even me. I had never spoken to my son like that. Mom, you're not foolish. No? Then explain how a smart 64-year-old woman ends up paying over $150,000 in loans that are never repaid. Because you're generous and, no, Tyler. Because I was foolish. Because I confused being a good mother with being an ATM. That's not fair. Do you know what I found when I reviewed my records? What? In the last 6 months I've been paying not just your mortgage, but also your utilities, your insurance, and $500 every 2 weeks for groceries. Silence. Tyler, do you have any expenses you actually pay yourself? Of course I do. I pay my cell phone. How much is your cell phone? $80 a month. $80. While I pay $3,500 a month for your basic expenses. Mom, I didn't know it was that much. Because you never asked. Because it was convenient not to know. That's not true. Tyler, answer me honestly. Did you ever wonder where the money was coming from? Did you ever think about my financial situation? Of course I did. Seriously. Do you know how much I receive in pension every month? Well, not exactly. $2,100 from Social Security, plus another $800 from your father's pension. That means I've been paying more for your household than I receive in monthly income. So I've been spending my retirement savings, the savings your father and I built over 40 years. The silence that followed was absolute. How much is left? He asked quietly. 32,000, out of the 180,000 I had when your father died. Oh my God. Yes. Oh my God is right. Mom, I didn't know. Because you didn't want to know. It was easier to assume money appeared whenever you needed it. What are you going to do when mine is gone? That's an odd question coming from you. What do you mean? I mean I've worried about your financial future for 5 years. When was the last time you worried about mine? I do worry. If you truly worried, you'd have noticed that a 64-year-old woman can't financially support a family of 4 indefinitely. You're right, he said finally, and for a moment I thought he might be starting to understand. You're right. I've been inconsiderate. But now that I understand the situation, we can make a plan. I can get a second job. Bianca can work more hours. Tyler, I said softly, it's too late for that. What do you mean? I mean I don't trust you anymore. The words left my mouth before I could stop them, but the moment I said them, I knew they were true. Mom, that's terrible. I'm your son. You're the man who lied to me about his finances for years. You're the man who spent $8,000 on a vacation knowing you hadn't paid your mortgage. You're the man who calls only when he needs money. But I can change. Can you? Because the last time we talked about change was 5 years ago, when you said the financial arrangement was temporary. This time will be different. No, Tyler. This time there is no arrangement. This time, it's over. Mom, please. The kids will suffer. And there it was, the final manipulation, using my grandchildren as an emotional shield. Tyler, I said, my voice colder than it had ever been, if you truly cared about your kids, you'd have thought of them before spending $8,000 on a vacation instead of paying for their home. Mom. No, the conversation is over. The loans are over. Everything is over. And if you lose the house, you'll learn a lesson millions of adults have learned: actions have consequences. Mom, please, goodbye, Tyler. I hung up and immediately put my phone on silent. I knew this was only the beginning. Tyler wouldn't let go easily, not after having access to my money for 5 unrestricted years. But something had changed in me during those 3 days of silence. I remembered what it felt like to live without the constant anxiety of being responsible for someone else's financial decisions, and I decided I liked that feeling. My phone started to vibrate with calls, Tyler, of course, but I didn't answer. This time I would let him solve his own problems. After all, he was a 38-year-old man. It was time he acted like one. 2 weeks after our last conversation, I was in my garden pruning roses when I saw a familiar car pulling into my driveway. My heart sank when I recognized the silver Honda Pilot I had helped buy 3 years earlier. Tyler, Bianca, and the kids got out of the car with a determination I hadn't seen in years, but something was different. Tyler looked gaunt, with dark circles under his eyes and wrinkled clothes. Bianca wore that forced smile she used whenever she was furious but trying to appear civilized. Emma and Jake trailed behind with uncomfortable expressions. As if they'd been dragged into something they didn't fully understand, I took off my gardening gloves and waited for them on the porch. I wasn't going to invite them in. Not this time. "Hi, Mom," Tyler said, his voice laced with false cheer. "We thought it would be good to come see you in person." "Ah. And to what do I owe the honor?" I kept my voice neutral. Bianca stepped forward with that smile that never reached her eyes. "Evangelina, I think there's been a terrible misunderstanding. Tyler told me about your conversation, and clearly there are some confusions we need to clear up." "Confusions?" "Yes," Bianca continued, taking on the condescending tone she'd perfected over the years. "Tyler says you think we don't value you, which is absolutely ridiculous. You're the most beloved grandmother in the world." I looked at Emma and Jake for any sign this might be true. Emma avoided my gaze, staring down at her phone. Jake kicked at an invisible stone on the ground. "Is that why you forgot me in Cancun?" I asked. "Oh, Evangelina." Bianca sighed dramatically. "We explained that already. It was a mistake. Besides, honestly, would you really have wanted to come? It was so hot. And you know how the sun affects you." "Since when do you know how the sun affects me?" "Well, at our age it's common sense." "Bianca," I cut in, "you're 39. I'm 64. We are not the same age." Her smile twitched, then reset. Tyler jumped in quickly. "Mom, the point is we came because we want to fix this as a family. We've been thinking, and you're right about some things." "Oh? Which things am I right about?" "Well, maybe we've been a little dependent on your help." "A little dependent?" I repeated slowly. "Tyler, you're losing your house." "I haven't lost it," he said quickly. "I'm losing it, but that's why we're here. We want to propose something." Here it came, the real reason for the visit. "Bianca and I were talking," Tyler continued, "and we think maybe it's time you considered. Well, considered that you don't need to live alone in such a big house." It felt like a punch to the gut. "Excuse me?" Bianca took over again. "What Tyler is trying to say is that this house is too much for you alone. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, front and backyard. It's a lot of maintenance for a woman your age. And, we were thinking, we could move in with you. It would be perfect. You'd have company, we could help with the maintenance, and the kids would be close to their grandmother. While you pay no rent," I added. "Well, we'd contribute," Tyler said quickly. We could pay the utilities, do the groceries. With what money? You're losing your house because you couldn't pay the mortgage. That was a bigger loan. This would be different. Tyler, I said slowly, you're asking me to let you move into my house so you can live here for free. It wouldn't be free, Bianca protested. It would be family helping family, like when we helped you remember your birthday. Emma finally looked up from her phone. Grandma, why are you being so mean to Dad? Those words hurt more than I expected. Mean. Yeah, Emma continued, with the blind confidence of a 16-year-old. Dad says you don't want to help us anymore even though we're family. He says you're being selfish. Emma, Tyler cut in quickly, we didn't say that exactly. Yes you did, Emma insisted. You told Mom Grandma was being selfish and maybe having age-related problems. Age-related problems, I repeated, staring directly at Tyler. Is that what you told them? He looked like he wished he could disappear. Did you tell my grandchildren I'm having mental problems? Not exactly. What exactly did you say? Bianca stepped in. Evangelina, you're misinterpreting everything. We only said that sometimes older people become more cautious with money. Cautious. Well, you know, sometimes they develop anxiety about spending, even on family. Anxiety, I said, my voice rising despite my efforts. I have anxiety about spending $157,400 in 5 years. Mom, Tyler said quickly, you don't have to say the amount. Why aren't you ashamed that your children know how much money you've taken from their grandmother? Emma and Jake exchanged confused looks. $157,400? Jake asked in a whisper. More, I said, looking straight at Tyler. $157,400 in 5 years. Grandma, Emma said slowly. That's a lot. That's more than many people earn in 3 years of full-time work. The kids stood in stunned silence, processing. Well, Bianca said briskly, you have enough money. It's not like we're leaving you with nothing. How do you know how much money I have? I assumed. Bianca, have you ever asked about my financial situation? I don't need to ask. It's obvious you're fine financially. Obvious because. Why? Because you've always been able to help us. And if I told you I've been spending my retirement savings? For the first time, Bianca looked uncertain. What do you mean? I mean my monthly pension is $2,900. $100 from Social Security and $800 from your father's pension. I've been paying more than $3,500 a month on your family's expenses. You can do the math. Bianca blinked rapidly. But Tyler said you had a lot saved. I emphasized. Past tense. I had $180,000 when my husband died. Now I have less than $30,000. The silence was deafening. 30,000, I repeated, to make it absolutely clear. That's less than a year of my basic expenses. Emma looked like she might cry. Grandma. That means Dad has been spending his kids' inheritance. Tyler went pale. Mom. Don't put it that way. How should I put it? It's the truth. That money was for my old age and eventually for you, and now there may be nothing left. Jake, who'd been quiet, finally spoke. Dad knew that. I looked directly at Tyler. Did you? I didn't know it was that much. Tyler, I said firmly, did you tell your children you were spending your mother's retirement money? Not in those terms. In what terms? I told them you were helping me temporarily. For 5 years, I said. Answer the question. Did your kids know you were spending my retirement money? No, he admitted. Emma looked devastated. Dad, why didn't you tell us? Because it's complicated. Honey. No, I said, it's simple. Your father decided it was easier to spend your grandmother's money than to get a better job or live within his means. Mom, that's unfair. Unfair? My voice cracked. You know what's unfair? Working for 40 years to save for your retirement only to spend it on an adult child who can't even remember your birthday. I'm so sorry, Grandma, Emma whispered. You have nothing to apologize for, sweetheart. You didn't know. But your father did. Jake stared at Tyler with an expression I'd never seen on his young face before. Pure disappointment. Jake, this is between adults, Tyler began. Don't, I cut in. If they're going to live with the consequences of their father's decisions, they have a right to understand those decisions. Bianca, unusually quiet until then, finally found her voice. Well, regardless of all that, we still need a place to live. No, I said simply. No what? No, you're not moving into my house. Evangelina, you can't be serious. Completely serious. We're family, but family doesn't manipulate, doesn't lie, doesn't exploit. We haven't exploited you, Bianca said, meeting my eyes. You've lived in a house paid for by me for 5 years. You've eaten food bought with my money. You've taken vacations financed by me. And you just asked to live in my house for free. What do you call that? I call that family taking care of family. Then we've had very different definitions of family. Tyler stepped forward, desperate. Mom, please, where are we going to live? That's a question you should have asked before spending $8,000 in Cancun. But that money's already gone. Exactly. And now you live with the consequences. Mom, you have to help us. We're your family. Tyler, I said, feeling a strange calm descend, for 5 years I've sacrificed for this family. I put your needs before mine. I spent my financial future on your present. And when I needed something, just to have my birthday remembered, you weren't there. But, no, but. It's over. Bianca's voice rose to a shrill pitch. You can't do this. We have children. You have children, I said. I have grandchildren, who've been used as tools for emotional manipulation. Evangelina, this is cruel. Cruel? I laughed without humor. You know what's cruel? Forgetting your mother's birthday. Lying about your finances. Exploiting a 64-year-old woman until she has almost nothing left. But you still have the house. Yes, Bianca. I still have my house. And it's mine. Tyler stepped closer, tears in his eyes. Mom, please. I promise, this time will be different. No, Tyler. This time there is no next time. What am I supposed to do? You're supposed to do what millions of adults do every day, get a job. Live within your means, and take care of your own family without exploiting others. But we don't know how, he said quietly. There it was, the final admission. After 5 years of pretending it was temporary, after years of promising change, Tyler finally told the truth. He didn't know how to be a responsible adult. Then it's time you learned, I said softly. 6 months after that confrontation on my porch, I was sitting on the terrace of a small cafe in San Miguel de Allende, Mexico, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. It was my second week on this trip, the trip I'd postponed for years, always diverting the money I'd saved for adventure into Tyler's endless emergencies. My phone vibrated with a text. It was Emma. Grandma, can I call you? I have something important to tell you. It had been a surprise to discover that my grandchildren, especially Emma, had begun reaching out to me directly after that day. At first, Tyler had tried to intercept our communication, but Emma turned 17 in January and finally had her own phone. I dialed her number, and she answered immediately. "Grandma. How's Mexico?" "Beautiful, sweetheart. But you didn't call to talk about the weather. What's going on?" There was a pause. Then Emma sighed deeply. "Mom and Dad are getting divorced." I wasn't surprised. A family held together only by the financial stability I provided was bound to collapse once that stability disappeared. "How do you feel about that?" "Honestly? Relieved. It's been awful at home. They just keep fighting, blaming each other for everything. Mom says Dad ruined our lives. Dad says Mom's too demanding. And what do you think?" "I think they're both responsible," she said quietly. "But Grandma, there's more." "What is it, dear?" "Mom's moving to California to live with her sister. She says there's no future for her here." "And your dad?" "That's the thing," she hesitated. "Dad wants to come talk to you." A knot formed in my stomach. "Emma, wait, let me finish. It's not what you think." "Well, maybe a little. But I also think he finally gets it." "What makes you think that?" "Because he's been apologizing to me and Jake constantly. He told us everything, about the money, about how he used you, about why we lost the house. And Grandma. He's working 2 jobs. That actually surprised me. 2 jobs. Yes. One at a factory during the day and one cleaning offices at night. We live in a small apartment near downtown. It's not nice, but he says he's going to pay all his debts himself." "And your mom?" "She hates it. She says Dad's working too much and that you should be helping him because that's what families do." Emma hesitated. "Grandma. Can I say something terrible?" "Of course, sweetheart. You can tell me anything. I'm glad you're not paying for everything anymore." Tears stung my eyes. "That's not terrible at all. Darling. Living with Dad lying to everyone, even to us, felt awful. At least now it's honest." I swallowed hard. "That doesn't sound terrible, Emma. It sounds brave. Dad says he didn't expect it to be this hard being a real adult." "And what did you tell him?" "I told him maybe he should have tried being an adult before turning 38. I couldn't help but laugh. "Emma, you're wiser than most adults I know." "I learned from the best," she said softly. "Grandma. Can I ask you something?" "Anything." "Are you happy?" The question caught me off guard. I looked around the cafe, the families chatting over dinner, the American expats laughing nearby, an older couple holding hands as they strolled through the plaza. "Yes," I said finally, surprised by how true it sounded. "I think I am." "I'm glad," she said. "You deserve to be happy." "And how are you, really?" "Better than I expected. Jake and I are closer now." "And Dad?" "Well, Dad's trying. Not perfect, but better." "Does he want your number?" "Yes. But I told him he had to ask you first." "Grandma, you don't have to talk to him if you don't want to." I thought for a long moment. "Give him my number." "But Emma, listen carefully." "What?" "Even if I do talk to him, things will never go back to how they were." "I understand. And I think he does too." After we hung up, I sat at that cafe until the sky turned dark, the lamps flickering on one by one around the plaza. 3 days later, my phone rang. "Hello, Mom." His voice sounded different, tired, but also real. Hello, Tyler. Thank you for taking my call. Emma can be very persuasive. She gets that from me. He gave a small, nervous laugh. Mom, I know you probably don't want to hear this, but I need to say it, I'm sorry. For what? For everything. For using your money. For lying. For forgetting your birthday. For treating you like a bank instead of a mother. I waited, but he didn't continue. That's it? No, he said after a pause. I'm also sorry for not seeing what I was doing to you. Emma made me sit down and calculate exactly how much I took from you over the years. Not just the big loans, but every transfer, every bill, every emergency. It came to $173,000. That number was even higher than I'd calculated. How did you reach that? I included the little things I never counted before, the groceries, the gas, the kids' clothes. All the things I just expected you to cover. I see. Mom, I also know now why you can't forgive me. Oh. It's not just about the money. It's because I made you believe your only worth was what you could give me. Those words hit harder than I expected, because they were true. Tyler, let me finish, he said quickly. I'm not calling to ask for money. I'm not calling to ask for anything. I just wanted to know if maybe, someday, we could start over. Start over how? I don't know exactly, he admitted. Maybe it starts with me calling you once a week just to ask how you are. Maybe it means inviting you to dinner when you come home, and I'll pay for it. With what money? With the money I earn from my jobs. Emma told me you're working 2 jobs. She hates that you're gone so much. Yeah, he said with a soft chuckle. She says it was easier when you paid for everything. And what did you tell her? I told her easier doesn't always mean better. I told her I like earning my own money, even if it's hard. That's good, I said quietly. Yeah, Mom. I know this will sound strange. But I feel better about myself now that I'm paying my own bills. It doesn't sound strange at all. Do you remember when you were little and insisted on tying your own shoes, even though it took forever? Vaguely. You used to say, I can do it myself, Mommy. You were so proud when you finally got it right. I think that was the last time I saw you truly proud of doing something on your own. There was a long silence. Mom, can I ask you something? Go ahead. Do you think you'll ever trust me again? That was the $1,000,000 question, literally. Trust is something built slowly, step by step, I said. I understand. And do you also understand that no matter what happens between us, I will never again be your financial safety net? Yes, he said firmly. And I don't want you to be. I want to take care of my own family. If Bianca comes back, which she won't, but if she did, she'd have to accept that things are different now. That I'm different. Tyler, I said, I need to ask you something, and I want the truth. Okay. Have you really changed, or are you just saying what you think I want to hear? Honestly? He said after a pause. Probably a little of both. But one thing is completely true. I don't ever want to be the man I was. I hated that version of myself, the one who depended on you for everything. And who do you want to be now? I want to be the kind of son you can be proud of, not because I buy things or pay for dinners, but because I'm a good man who takes care of his family and respects his mother. I sat in silence, letting his words settle. There was something different in his tone, something I hadn't heard in years. Vulnerability, Tyler, I said softly. I'll be in Mexico for 2 more weeks. That's fine, he said quickly. When you get back, can I call you once a week, like I said? Really? Yes. But Tyler, listen carefully. If you ever ask me for money again, that will be our last conversation. I understand. Do you really? Yes, Mom. I really do. After I hung up, I sat on my small terrace in San Miguel, looking up at the stars appearing one by one in the warm Mexican sky. For the first time in years, I felt something I'd almost forgotten existed: hope. Not hope that things would go back to the way they were. Those days were gone. But hope that, maybe, we could build something new from the ashes of what we destroyed. 3 weeks later, I was back home in the States, unpacking souvenirs from my trip when my phone rang. It was Tyler, exactly 1 week after our call, just like he'd promised. "Hi, Mom. How was your last day in Mexico?" And for the first time in more than 5 years, that question wasn't followed by a request for money. It was simply a son asking his mother about her day. It was a beginning.